Cody, you went 2,885 days between playing pro hockey games, March 1st, 2016 to January 24th, 2024. Give me one word to describe how your body was feeling the next day after 2,885 days off.
I actually felt great. I feel better now than when I was playing the first time. So it's a good feeling.
Okay, so then tell me what it was like to get back out there mentally and what you were feeling just having kind of even getting a chance to make it all the way back.
Well, that part's crazy. That part was the tough one. Yeah, the mentally, the game's moving so quick and the guys are so fast. But I think they've really put me in a good position here to succeed. The coaching staff, and they tried to get me ready. They didn't put me in a game right away. It was nice to kind of get some practices under my belt and get used to the pace and the speed of everything. So I'm getting more comfortable every time.
So I think the big question that everyone wants to know is why? Why did you decide to make a comeback after nearly 8 years off the ice?
Oh, I always told myself if I felt better, if I could, I would, or at least try. So this summer when everything changed and my body, I could feel everything kind of working properly again, I contacted the old doctors that told me I couldn't play it. I would, it would be fatal if I tried that. And asked them to retest me for everything, heart, lungs, kidney, liver, and everything came back clean. So I was excited to hear that. And then, I said, I was skating with some buddies and I was about 45 pounds heavier than I am now. And they're joking about coming back. And I thought, well, I'd love to if I could. And then started thinking, maybe I could. So I asked them, the same doctors, if they could monitor me while I was, skating and pushing a little more and thinking this disorder that I had would trigger. And it hasn't so far, and it's been really smooth this whole time. So hopefully that continues, and I'm feeling great.
Yeah, so let's talk about that disorder so everyone can understand what exactly you were dealing with. Malignant hyperthermia. What is it, and how did you manage it?
It's a muscle disorder. Most people would know it from an allergy to anesthesia. That's kind of the way I grew up thinking it was. So if I was in a car accident or something happened on the ice and I needed to have surgery, I needed to tell the doctors that I'm allergic to this type of anesthesia. So if I had the anesthesia, my whole body would react and have this basically allergic reaction that causes your temperature to spike and blood pressure to drop, and then the rest of the symptoms that follow. Your lungs start shutting down, your kidneys failing, and it's a lot of symptoms from there that's fatal. So it wasn't really a question of while I was playing that. Now they show that other things can trigger it too. And when I was given this, basically a piece of paper after I had the surgery, confirmed that I had it. I was like, avoid contact sports, avoid prolonged physical activity, avoid going from hot to cold or cold to hot, and high intensity exercise. High stress environments. So basically a job description of playing in the National Hockey League, but working with those same doctors and be able to get some medication, the right medication, and just fully oxygenate my whole body, and everything's been great. So it hasn't triggered at all.
So you didn't know that you had it while you were playing in the NHL, is that right?
No, I let everyone know that I had it. So if I got knocked out on the ice or I needed to have surgery, that the doctors would know not to give me that type of anesthesia. But that's all it was. Even when I came back with symptoms and I knew I had malignant hyperthermia, the doctors were like, okay, so we can't give you a certain anesthesia. But just recently the doctor said other things can trigger. It's kind of like an awake triggering, and that's what I had. Unfortunately, I had a full-blown rhabdomyolysis, so I was having some trouble breathing and having heart arrhythmias, and the whole body was shaking. I was urinating blood, so it was pretty scary for a while. They were testing me for brain, liver, lung cancer, all that stuff that was wrong with me, until I found out exactly what it was, and it's just a genetic disorder. So I've been able to live a normal life since, but just was told I couldn't play hockey anymore, which obviously sucks. But in the grand scheme of things, I played 6 years at the time, and could do everything outside of hockey. I couldn't play professional sports, so that was tough. But at least it wasn't a terminal illness like they were testing me for with my brain and liver and lungs and that kind of stuff for cancers.
So when you were going through your last pro season, you knew what it was, but couldn't you couldn't find a way, like obviously you're struggling through it. How did you get through it?
No, we thought it might have been something else like cancer or something like that. So that's why I was doing all those tests while I was playing, and I was having some symptoms at night. I'd take myself to the hospital a couple times, and it was really scary for a few months. And then once I was told, actually why I had to stop is because I was told these are all common symptoms of malignant hyperthermia, and if I continued, it would be fatal. And if I didn't get the right drugs, even, it would have been fatal. So I was fortunate to hook up with the malignant hyperthermia unit in Toronto, where I'm from. It just happened to be that was the closest people that I was talking to, and they confirmed all my symptoms were matched perfectly with malignant hyperthermia. So that was a relief, actually. They told me I couldn't play hockey anymore, but at least I knew what the issue was, and there was medication for it. So I had to stop playing, but at least I'd be alive and could live a normal life.
So from the time you stopped playing until you decided to get back on the ice again, what were you up to?
I got into real estate in Nashville, but more importantly, I was overseeing the youth development for the Predators too. So all the kids starting from 4 to 9 years old that wanted to play hockey, and we'd give them full gear, head to toe, everything, and then 6 on-ice sessions with alumni, and hope to grow the game. That was what I was doing for the last 7 years. And then about 6 months before I started actually training again, I moved home. My brother just had a kid, and my other sister's pregnant, so just wanted to come home and be an uncle and be around family more. And then started playing hockey. I joined a Gary Roberts game. Eric Lindros has a game, so just getting out there, enjoying the guys on the ice. And I started realizing by about August that I can push it a little more, and started really seeing what I could do.
So you're dinking and dunking around Toronto in these, games with some high level players still, but I guess more or less kind of like a beer league level, right? And you're keeping tabs, I guess, a little bit closely on what's happening in the NHL. Like, what are you following the game? Like, what were you up to then?
Yeah, I mean, I was still just a fan, but obviously on the outside, nothing crazy. Just following exactly what's who's winning it, what's going on, the certain guys, and just keeping tabs on former players. And that's actually how I got back into it. I texted some buddies and said, hey, if you started feeling really good after these skates, and normally I wouldn't be able to walk upstairs or things like that the next day. I have to take a breather, take these pills, and I'd be really shut down for at least a day. But after everything changed this summer, I was I could realize I could play the next day and the next day if I wanted to. So started pushing it. But these skates they're great. It was really a lot of fun, but I wanted a little more. So I texted Cameron Gauntz and Kevin Carr and the guys that are still playing. I said, hey, if you ever need an extra guy, you got 19 guys and you need 20, I'd love to come out and play with some more, a little intensity. And so they said, yeah, sure, you can come out if you want to. And I loved it. It was great, a lot of, a little more intense. Those guys were still training. Like they're trying to play in the National Hockey League. So it was a lot of fun to get back out there and really compete.
So as you're rebuilding kind of brick by brick, when did you realize that, you could pull it off physically? Like, was there a breakthrough moment? Was there something that you said, you know what, I can really give this a go?
Well, it really wasn't until probably like mid-December, because I was training just thinking that this thing would trigger again and I would, have to stop. But I wanted to push it and push it and push it, and hard as I've ever pushed in my entire life, just to make sure I couldn't. And then if I didn't want to start playing again, then have to stop, a week or two into it and say, hey, sorry guys, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, but this thing is still here. So, and obviously that could happen, but I've pushed it now harder than I've done my entire life. So, knock on wood, everything still stays kosher. But the amount that I've trained now and the amount that I've been able to really push through and nothing's come up has been amazing. It's been a great experience. I got on the ice after I played with these guys, and they all left for the fall. They all obviously went to their teams. I contacted an old trainer. He wanted me to come out. I would skate maybe once a year with him just for fun, come in the summers and see the guys, and then I wouldn't be able to do much the next couple of days. So he allowed me to come out and skate, and then he's like, Cody, you gotta come back. And I kind of just brushed it off and said, thanks, I appreciate it. But this time by about August, I was moving pretty well, and I could realize I could do it more than once a week. So I started to skate with him more, and then he just said, I got ice for you this fall if you want to keep coming and training, and we'll see what you can do. And the rest is kind of, that's how it started.
So it's one thing to think that you can maybe do it, but it's another thing for someone else that's running an NHL team or an AHL organization to be able to say, hey, yeah, I'll give him a chance. So when you first started making calls, and obviously you have a connection with the Preds given the time you spent working there and the last year playing there, I'm assuming they were your first call, but what was that conversation like? Were they like, no, seriously, like you want to do this? What was it? Did they take you seriously from the jump?
No, well, I first thought it was a little bit nuts. So I was kind of just like teasing it around to guys that have played and know the game. So I told Eric Lindros, and he got really excited, and he made some phone calls and said, if you're going to do this, you got to talk to these guys here. And he really kind of set the wheels in motion from that perspective, getting it out in the media. And I think Hockey Night in Canada mentioned it. And then, I was working with Gary Roberts. Obviously, I see him, once a week. So just asked him kind of what temperature would be, how I'd do this. And then I just talked to people that had been in the game a long time and asked for their advice. I called Guy Boucher, which wasn't a coach of mine and in junior, and he kind of knows my character. And I called Terry Crisp with the Predators, and they all kind of gave me the same advice. They said, just, you can't really expect too much. It's been 8 years. So, start wherever you can. If you need to go, just call them and say, hey, I'll come practice with you guys. I'll pay my own way and expenses. And if you think I can help your team, then, that'd be great. So Terry was really inspirational on that. He just said, these guys have to see you first. No one's going to take you on a tryout basis or sign you to a PTO if they haven't seen you skate. So that's what I did. I called Scott Nickel. I called a few teams, but Scott was a little hesitant at the beginning, obviously as the GM here in Milwaukee. And then he said, I was thinking about it last night, the night before, and the night after, and he said, I'm going to push Trotz to see if we can get this done. So I'm really thankful for that. I'm really thankful that he gave me a chance to just by, listen to me. I actually I wasn't playing with the organization when he got hired. I was already retired. So he just knew me from kind of an off ice, that type of relationship. It wasn't a hockey related one.
So how quickly did things move from the time that you really thought you could do it until actually showing up in Milwaukee?
Well, I think it was probably end of the summer when I figured that I'm going to try to do this. So it was end of August. So it was probably 5-6 months of actual pushing and training, and hopefully not having it trigger. And then from the time that I felt comfortable that I wasn't going to trigger it again, like 2 weeks. It was really quick. It was right after Christmas that I started making phone calls, and then it just happened right away. And they said, can you come down tomorrow? I said, I'll be there. So got on a flight, checked into the hotel the next day, show up on the ice and got all new gear and tried to keep up with the guys. And they've been awesome here. The coaching staff has put me in situations where I could succeed, and the players are so friendly and helpful. It's nice. They got a lot of respect for the game and each other, and I could see why they won so many games in a row. Like I came in the middle of the winning streak, and it just finally ended. But it's been a great run here for about 2 months.
Yeah, that was my next question. It's one thing to join a team as a PTO guy, but it's another thing to get inserted into the lineup while they're on an absolute heater. What's that part of it been like?
Oh, it's been awesome. They're a great group. Yeah, like I said, I can understand why they won so much. It's not necessarily the on-ice X's and O's and how hard they work, which they have that. It's a great coaching staff. They have the systems. They have the talent. But the way they come together off the ice and the way they care about each other is what makes it special. When guys block a shot, they're just as excited to have them fired up as someone who scores a goal at the other end. So amazing goaltending and just, real powerhouse all the way through from the defense on out. It's actually it's been a fun experience being a part of this.
Have doctors given you any reason as to why this hasn't fired up again? Like what is the medical reason for why it's sort of worked out for you?
Well, I now have drugs that if it does trigger, I can suppress it. I mean, at least, I've been able to get on less and less of the drugs that would cause me to, be basically a zombie. And you can't operate on, you can't play at a high level. But honestly, I might sound like a crazy person, but I started doing this. I understood the benefits of the cold tub. I just thought with my condition, I'm supposed to avoid going in the cold. So I finally was thinking that I'd love to try it anyway, just in case. I have the pills now if it triggers, but I wanted to just make sure that it doesn't, kill me. So I started looking up ways to withstand the cold, and I came across this Wim Hof breathing exercises, and I think the breathing's helped me more than anything. It just fully oxygenates my whole body, and I just feel incredible doing it. So started doing that, and then obviously changing the diet and making sure I'm living clean and But those are probably the biggest things. It's the Wim Hof method stuff. I'll give him all the credit. And then just the drugs that I can get down to small amounts that doesn't affect me mentally anymore.
So take me through this breathing exercise. What does it mean? How do you do it? How often do you do it? How long does it take?
It's a bit of a cult following. If you look up Wim online, he's got millions of followers now, and he's in the Netherlands. So when I first started doing it, I just saw it on the internet, and I realized what an effect it's having on my body. And I was having these weird, I called them symptoms, but it was just, it's a normal thing to learn that. So I didn't know that until I actually flew to the Netherlands. I went to go see him. I spent 3 days with him and tried to figure out what was going on with my body, why it wasn't reacting. So just doing the exercises, the breathing, normally my muscles would seize up and then nothing lets go unless I take these drugs. But doing the breathing, right in the middle of it, they'll just release. And it's the most incredible feeling that I've never had before. So I got really excited, and then I can take less drugs so I don't need to have that other effect where it causes me to miss a day or two after. And then the cold, he's able to control his temperature, and that's exactly what my issue is. It's malignant hyperthermia, so my body gets too hot. He's known as the Iceman and kind of the internet culture. He's actually able to run a marathon in the desert with no water, and his skin temperature didn't stay the same. So I just wanted to ask like how he's able to control. And he always says it. He's not just like a freak of nature. He wants to show other people how to do it. So I learned as much as I could, and even that small amount of time. But I'm still learning about my body and still trying to live most healthy. But the breathing, I think, is what's helping me the most of anything.
So how did you find him?
Honestly, I was looking up how to withstand the cold in the cold tub because I didn't want this thing to trigger. And I was thinking maybe it'd be exercises or something like that would, get my body warm enough that I could try it at least. And then, just doing his method, his breathing exercises, it's like a controlled, I don't know how to describe it. You basically take away the most oxygen you can by holding your breath. And then you oxygenate your full body, and your body then, processes oxygen way easier. And my muscles just don't seize up. That's kind of the easiest way to describe it.
And when you started explaining this to people in the hockey world, did their brains explode?
Well, I mean, I was telling my family, and my dad's like, maybe you just don't tell people that, He's like a crazy person. But to be honest, I feel great. And if other people want to try it, it's worked for me. So maybe it'll work for them too.
Hey, I say this all the time. It's only weird if it doesn't work. But when you're thinking about, so the medical part, you feel like you've solved. What were you dealing with from a mental perspective over the last 8 years? I know you said your perspective seemed really healthy. It was like, hey, look, at least I don't have, a fatal disease or a terminal disease, and I can kind of go about living a normal life. I've had a pretty successful career. I've made some money. I was a first-round pick. I was on a team that went to the Stanley Cup final. You were part of a lot of things in a, relatively short period of time, but did any part of you feel like, man, I was robbed of what could have been, or I wanted to do this? Was there bitterness? What was the mental part of it like?
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why I'm here. I felt like I would have loved to have kept playing. If I could, I would have. So that's why I promised myself that if I ever had the opportunity to again, if I ever felt like I could play, at least I would try. So that's where we're here. That's where I am right now. And I'm trying. It's not easy. It's been tough. Some grueling days, but I think it's rewarding, just more mentally than anything. Like you said, it's the knowing that you can compete and that kind of stuff is secondary to the mental aspect of it, of just feeling better and wanting to be about and contribute. It's nothing like it's a lot of guys talk about this when they're retired, and I've gotten a lot of texts from guys that are saying, they would love to have done that living through me, that guys have retired, because when you leave the room, it's a different feeling. When you're in that camaraderie and you come to practice every day, you develop a family, and that when you're retired, you don't have that. It doesn't matter what kind of work you get into or what culture you're a part of. There's something unique about being in a hockey environment and all having the same goal and trying to win, and you can't replace that. So I'm fortunate to be able to have basically a second chance.
But not everyone can do that, for just even from a physical perspective. Like you mentioned the medical side, but what about the physical training side of, I'm sure you mentioned, did you say 47 or 48 pounds heavier than you are now? What were you at your highest weight? And to get back into playing shape. That's a whole other story at age 34.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking with Brad Wheeler. We call him Wheels. He's skated a ton of guys for a long time, and I would come out, like I said, maybe once a summer, and I'd keep up and just try my hardest, and then it would be tough to really do it the next day. But working with him, he's like, if you lost like 50 pounds, you'd be great. Like, well, it's easier said than done, Wheels. But it's like, no, that stuff's easy. You can take care of that. That most people would have a tough time just trying to keep up in the games, but I felt like my mind was still sharp. I still was competitive. I still wanted to be in it. And it's just my body needed to respond. So, and luckily it's held up really well.
What were you at your heaviest weight?
I was 233.
Okay. So now you're down to what?
Yeah, I was like 189. Yeah, something like that.
Nice. So as you're training and you're trying to make your way back and you're setting some goals for yourself, obviously where you're at now is, you've made it to that point, but what is the ultimate goal? Is it to get back to the NHL?
Yeah, obviously I think that's the way everyone plays. Why everyone wants to get involved in the game is to be at your best. And hopefully if things, keep progressing, just keep working hard and eventually, hopefully get there. I don't know what else to say. Like if you're not trying to make the NHL, I don't know why you be playing professional anyway. So I think everyone's goal is to try to be the best they can be, and hopefully that can take me to the National Hockey League again.
I love that. So you make it to Milwaukee, you play 2 games, and then you get hurt.
Yeah, it was a nice welcome back to pro hockey. I got hit the first game. I broke my rib. I was still using basically men's league equipment. I left all of my stuff in Nashville. I didn't touch my gear for about 5 years. I still like to be around the game, and I still would, go to the Preds games and help out the kids and things like that and do charity appearances. But it was really tough for me to watch. A lot of friends still playing, so I would keep track of them and keep tabs. But for the most part, I didn't touch my hockey gear for 5 years. It was sat in my closet. And then JP Dumont in Nashville, I said, hey, we got some alumni guys coming out. If you want to try, you can play. If you can't, you can't. Who cares? No one's there to try to prove anything. It's just the alumni guys having fun. And that's really what got me back into hockey. It's just, it's good for your soul. It's nice to be out there and be back in the locker room and playing hockey with the guys. And from there, just kind of progressed. And I was playing maybe once or twice a week. And then when I got back to Toronto and realized that I could play a couple more times a week, and it just kind of progressed from there. So it's been a slow process, and it hasn't been easy, but I'm glad I stuck it out and at least given a chance now.
So, but you have the broken rib, and obviously you've rehabbed from that because you've returned. But how does someone with a broken rib do his breathing exercises?
It was painful. No, it actually really helped to heal it though. So yeah, I broke the rib, bruised the lung, and then that was like the second period of the first game. So I was able to play the second one, and then by the third day it was pretty tough to breathe and had to get it looked at, and then it turns out it was broken. I got to take a couple of weeks off. But in hindsight,
you weren't going to let that derail you though.
No, I think it was just the adrenaline, trying to keep up and everything going on. You don't really worry about, that your ribs hurt a little bit too much, but I think we had a day off the one day and I was like, this is really hurting. So I got to go check this out. But yeah, it was nice to actually have that little bit of a gap to get up to speed, and I flew back to Nashville, got my old gear, so now it wouldn't happen again. I'm not taking stuff off the shelf for men's league gear and getting out there. And it also gave me a chance to get into new skates. I was using skates that are about a decade old my first couple of games back.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cody, your story has been tremendously inspirational to me, just listening to it. I'll leave you with this. The streak ends for the Admirals at 20 games. You're riding your own personal streak now. You've got goals in a few straight. But as you come down to the stretch of the season, I know your goal is to make it to the NHL. What are you targeting for the end of this year, and what's your thought process heading into the summer? How do you get someone to take a chance on you?
Well, I think it comes down to how many games. I just want to get in as many games as I possibly can and do well during that time. And then we'll see how realistic it really is. But for now, I'm just focusing on trying to help the team win and generate some opportunities for ourselves and the teammates. And I think that's all really what happens anyway in normal hockey. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Cody, love your story. Love your passion. All the best. Thanks a lot for joining me.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.